Me neither. That's going to
I just went with the closet. Six I've never even worn.
Okay, what did I do wrong?
I haven't worn them in 2 years.
Well, and I.
Oh, I just haven't put it out there yet. Okay.
I buy Justin stuff all the time.
Ready?
Yes.
He's not good. I like yours too.
Everybody ready? Everybody will stand. We'll go ahead and get started. Hey. Welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the board. 6:33, roll call.
Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yeah.
McElroy,
Yes.
Stottsberry,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes. Moving on to public participation. Dan?
Then we have two items, and we're really excited about both, in no particular order of importance. We're going to start with an honor for the 2020 Ohio School Boards Association Media Honor Roll. And, Mr. Harrison joined us how many months ago has it been now, Jeff? You've been with us a little over a year and a half? And I personally believe, and I think I can speak on behalf of many, that his contributions to our district have been tremendous. And for a guy that spent his entire life covering athletics to transform overnight, start reporting and communicating all things good about Zep Nation while continuing to represent all of our athletes, not only here in our district, but throughout our region. No one does it better than Jeff. So Jeff was nominated. Unfortunately, it was a COVID year, so we didn't get to go to Columbus and have him recognized in front of more of his peers, but I'd like to read the OSBA Media Honor Roll. Whereas in each community, the public schools are shaped by that community to provide the most appropriate and effective education for the stakeholders who attend those schools. And whereas public schools are dependent upon the community's support in countless ways, including support in setting goals for the education of our children and establishing successful volunteer and booster programs at the schools, the funding of facilities and operations, and the election of qualified school board members. And whereas much of the community's knowledge and opinions about the public schools depend upon responsible reporting by local news media representatives who decide which news to share with the community, how much attention will be focused on various issues, and what tone of the reporting will be. Therefore, now be it resolved that the Noble Local School District Board of Education named Jeff Harrison journal leader and as Noble Local Schools Director of Communications to the 2020 OSBA Media Honor Roll, calling attention to the ongoing responsible and exemplary nature of reporting on this community's public schools. We express our appreciation for your balanced and accurate approach to sharing with this community both the challenges facing our schools and the successes achieved by the staff and students. Your work has aided this community in focusing on the goal of providing the best public schools we can for every child who attends them. So Jeff, on behalf of the board, on behalf of our district, our community and beyond, we thank you and we recognize you, the 2020 Ohio School Boards Association Media Honor Roll. Now we need you back here.
You guys hug again, I would.
One more time.
We don't want to put that one on.
We need to make sure we put that on social media, all right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you all saw my birthday gift that he put on there.
Hey, just get against the thing, it's over. We didn't ask you to say a few words or anything. You're only allowed to write. No, go ahead.
Speak now.
Go ahead, speak.
No.
But no, what would you like to say about your time here?
I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here, first of all, and to share your story the way I've been doing, both as in the athletics and in the non-athletic stuff. I'm still learning most of that stuff, though. Really appreciate it. And right now, we're in the middle of putting out an extra special edition of the Nova Local News. It'll be all geared towards curriculum and the scheduling, all the course offerings. And that's going to be done by the end of next week. Matter of fact, you probably haven't told them about that yet, have you? But anyway, so that'll be an addition to the regular quarterly magazine.
Hold that certificate back up.
I'm gonna get blasted online. I already see it coming.
The next snow day is all you, brother. Hey, hold on, Mr. Gray has something.
May I have a comment? Being a resident of Noble County for probably almost 40 years, having moved down here from Cleveland, we live in the Caldwell district. And so the first time we got this nice article, I looked at it and I thought, wow, well, I'm into communication. I'm being an ex-chamber president and all that other stuff and trying to get community development. I think it's wonderful. So when I got that, I was really tickled. And the first time I met him, I came over, we had a basketball game because now we bleed green. I don't know if you know, but we came over and I talked to him and I didn't know who he was. And he said, well, he's the guy that sent the article. And I said, I've been meaning to talk to you.
Yeah, run the other way.
Exactly. So I just want to affirm you because I thought it was wonderful and I still think it's.
Wish all the people in Caldwell felt that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Jeff,
I mean, I feel like every time we circle and we talk about our issues, it's communication, getting a good word out, and what do we need to do? And I think Jeff's, obviously it's never going to be completely eliminated, but I think he's been a big part of showing the community of what good we are doing.
Amen.
Appreciate that very much.
Yep, it's been fantastic. So,
Thank you again.
keep moving. Keep moving. You're doing great, brother.
Hey, that's the hardest part right now is to keep
Keep it
moving.
up.
That's the part I haven't totally recovered.
This would probably maybe embarrass Jeff a little bit. But Jeff
That'll be the first time you did that.
Jeff,
I don't even know where he's born.
Jeff was truly, he had some rough weeks, with COVID and stuff. But I'll tell you what, our January edition went out on time.
Yeah,
And, I mean, man, he's,
he was in the hospital worried about it.
I know. I tried to do everything I could to alleviate that worry.
He said it better be on the, he said it better be on the printing press on January 6th.
Well, I'll bring your laptop to you.
It was a unique experience though, trying to write up the ball games from a hospital bed with tubes in me and Mark and Sammy are sending me the stat sheets and I'm writing up the things for the journal while I'm laying there in the hospital bed. That was unique.
But you couldn't tell the difference, because you're so professional with it.
Well,
You just-
it wasn't quite as long, but anyways, I appreciate everything. That's working with all of you. It's a good group of people.
Good job.
So Jeff, well, since you brought it up, your anticipated mail-out date of the curriculum issue is What's your target?
If I get everything to me, but I'll have it to the printer next Friday. They'll be printing it off maybe the 3rd of March. And then it's up to the mail. Because if you guys noticed, the 3rd edition that was sent out in January, it was a good 2 weeks before it got to people even in the district, let alone the ones that live outside the district that have requested to be on the mailing list. That's just a slow mail thing. So I would say it's going to get to the people March 15th, 16th, somewhere in that window. And it'll be all related to curriculum.
How many do we send out?
4,000 maybe. And then I'll bring another 400 here to give to the staff. I think it's right around that number.
But, so the idea behind this, going out just about our curriculum, really, we talked about it last year, pre-COVID, that we have some students here that are more aware of opportunities that lie outside our district than what we actually offer them right here. And so we planned to showcase what we had to offer, and obviously we're shut down due to COVID. We still have obviously some limitations, but on April 8th, our folks we will have a community curriculum showcase from preschool all the way to high school, showcasing a lot of our different programs, a lot of our offerings. We want to get, I don't think people understand. Like, I will tell you, you're going to hear a little bit from Justin tonight. We haven't even talked about the medical pathway that we're expanding next year. It's amazing. So there's so many things, and Justin put out a tweet that people drive by and they see Old Shenandoah, and they just assume that everything's the same because for the most part, the outside looks the same. What's happening inside is just vastly different. So we want to give an opportunity for everybody to see how a lot of these things.
Try that, see what happens.
Jeff, that's a great
See what
job.
happens. Like a few times.
Kevin, did you have another question?
No, it's not gonna really do it. You want it bigger?
Then you guys want to see the work in progress on this curriculum. It's kind of a working model, but it's here.
Maybe I'm the one.
Okay. And we're also fortunate to have with us tonight is Herman Gray. Herman's been the annual visitor on behalf of the Knights of Columbus, and he and his organization have made some fantastic donations and contributions to our district, specifically assisting our students with special needs. And so with us also is Chrissy. And so, Herman, I'll turn it over to you, buddy.
Thank you. Okay, basically, I'm just going to give you the little short spiel of what we're all about. We're the Knights of Columbus. We're a fraternal organization based here in Caldwell, the Council 2565, and our projects that we do are to serve the community, build fraternal organizations, build betterment in our society, and serve the needs of special needs people. And this program that we're going to talk about a little bit today is the Measure Up program, and it consists of taking donations from the community, various locations in the county, and it's one big weekend. We blitz banks, markets, food center, other areas, and you might see around here, and this is what we wear, so we are identified as a sanctioned, legit organization to donate to. Okay. And we have in the past been here, and I don't know how many times we've been here. I don't know. Do you remember this? What they were?
I believe this is at least three
or four, whatever. We've chosen to take our funds, and in this case, we've split our funds with Caldwell Exempted and Noble Local. And in the past, we've been very, very fortunate to be able to collect. We had approximately $1,000. Okay. Well, this year, COVID strikes, so we've had to be a little bit more creative in how we did that. And so we're proud to say that we have a check here I'm going to give Chrissy for $458.04. It's her choice or your team's choice to do with this as you like, as long as it goes to better developmentally disabled citizens, all right? And historically, can you tell me, just explain what we've done in the past?
Yes, in the past, we've purchased adaptive furniture for students that may need chairs in the younger grades. This past year, we looked at some adaptive writing materials to help students better communicate. And we also helped our high school program that has a community-based program to prepare for jobs. So it's been very helpful. We so much appreciate it.
So, on behalf of the Iowa State Council,
Thank you very much.
can we get a picture?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Right over here, buddy.
All right. I'm gonna put my little Pelican pony. The frame says, you know, we report to other people. Go back to New Haven, Connecticut. So, put my mask on. And, let's see. There we go. There you go. All right.
One, two, three.
Smile.
Good, good.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll give one here too. Oh, please, that way you go in the back.
Oh, good. We're gonna put this in the paper, and we're gonna send it to student bills.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Our pleasure.
Thank you, Herb.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Howard.
You're welcome. Our pleasure.
Okay, moving on to administrative reports.
We're gonna approve December meeting next, too.
Okay, as you know, recently, and on tonight's agenda, we have a recommendation of hiring of our new head football coach. And John is also on the agenda tonight, approving him as a substitute teacher. But I want to take the opportunity, beginning of the meeting, to introduce the entire board. As you know, Constance and Guy represented the board on our selection committee. And I think I shared this with John. This was certainly not my first go around in hiring head football and basketball coaches and band directors. And I am confident to say that I don't think that I've ever been part of a better quality candidate pool than what we had for this position. And when we got down to our last five, I know, my job, I believe, is to get a candidate pool that I could live with any of the five. And I believe wholeheartedly I could have done that, which I think speaks to the depth and the quality of our pool. But when we conducted the second round, I think it was, unanimous that we believe that we've hired the best fit for us in a number of ways moving forward. It was actually my first experience meeting John, I think, along with many others on the committee. And we just think in a number of ways, some immediate, some in the future, he's going to be a great fit for us, not only on the football field, but in working with all of our students here in the building. So just like to take the opportunity to introduce you to John Jones.
First of all, Jeff actually covered me in high school a little bit. It's funny, during our playoff run at Cambridge, 05, 06, he covered us in the playoff run, did a lot of great work for the paper back then. It's funny how things come full circle a little bit. So congrats to your honor, Jeff.
Same to you. I've known you since you were about 12.
I know.
I met you when you were about 12.
Yeah, that's right. But I'd like to thank everybody for having me here today, and I appreciate it. I'm really excited for the opportunity to be here, do something great with these kids over the next several years. Can't tell you how excited I am to get on the field and get in the weight room, interact with them, get in the classroom, interact with other students that are outside of football, and do a lot of great things. Still on the hunt for assistant coaches. We have a few guys that I think can really contribute this upcoming season, and we can retain for several years so the kids can really get to know them. And we just want to bring complete excitement to the program. We want them to be excited about everything they do. We want them to compete every day. We want them to challenge each other. We want them to work for positions because they're going to understand nothing's safe. So we're going to compete in every aspect in everything we do and try to bring the best out of them, academically and on the football field. So, once again, I appreciate it, everyone, and glad to be here. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. On behalf of the board, you went time. Understood.
Awesome. Mr. Miller, elementary report.
Trent, I shared a slide with you. I only got 4 slides. It's not gonna be too bad tonight, but
Did you email it to me?
I shared it as a Google slide.
Okay.
Yes, it should have came through as an email.
Yep, there it is.
So I just wanted to give kind of an update. I thought I'd stick with the literacy, and I know we're STEM, but literacy is our foundation. You'll go ahead and go to the next slide here, and I want to start with some celebrations. Really, I'm going to share our DIBELS data that we're going to look at is completed and shows our kids are growing. When you look at the graphs that I'm going to show you, we literally flipped. You think about our kids that left in March. We did some awesome things from March to the end of May, but still looking at those things, there's when you look at our data from the beginning of the year to where it is now, the gains that our kids have made. Also, we just wanted to recognize Melissa Miley and April Stottsberry were presented at the Education Summit yesterday, and they were presenters on some of our literacy practices. And we're also recognized along with 6 other educators from the ESC region as 2021 recipients of the Excellent Education Award winners for their work around literacy. So that's a couple celebrations. I could go on, but next slide, please. So I just want to give you a literacy update. Again, I'm going to share with you our literacy data. And I want to share with you, this is out of a book that we're using right now, and I've had this book for years, and so it's got some chicken scratch on both sides of it. That just to kind of, when you think of literacy and what literacy looks like, so then you can kind of, when I say what we're doing here, kind of gives you an idea. And I don't know if you got little ones at home or somebody. So this is so the first side I show you is strategic actions. When we're doing, and I'm going to talk about guided reading a little bit, and I'll go over the guided reading framework. But when you're working with kids, there's really three areas. There's within the text, there's beyond the text, and thinking about the text. Okay, so then you see these strategic actions. So these are things that we want to be working on with our kids. Okay, so you can obviously, within the text is a lot of your decoding. Okay, that's your decoding and some of your comprehension. You get into thinking beyond the text, that's where you're making connections. You're making inferences and things like that, and then about the text is where you're analyzing, you're doing some comparisons and things. So this wheel, so when we're building our guided reading lesson, it doesn't matter if I'm a high reader or a low reader and what grade I'm at. If we're doing guided reading the right way, we can align the text to work on these things with those kids. If you flip it over, this is the framework for a guided reading lesson. And right now, we're working on a lot of this. I met with teachers, started meeting with teachers, and they took our literacy plan that we have, and I said, okay, I know it's COVID and everything else, but let's reflect on, tell me where you feel your strengths are and what you're comfortable with, and where do we need the most support. And more, as we met with each grade level, they talked about small group instruction and guided reading. So we're taking, and I'll go into this with the next slides a little bit, but so we're taking this component, and again, we're trying to be strategic and be specific, not specific, I don't know if that's the word, but we want to be consistent across so the literacy experience I get, doesn't matter what classroom I'm in, I get the same literacy experience and I get the same instruction. So you look at this framework for guided reading. To be honest with you, if if you're at home and you got a preschooler or somebody you want to read with, this is a good way to kind of look through a text with you. So you got before, which is about 5 minutes. You're introducing the text, you're front loading. Maybe you got some difficult words you're going to go over, and you're going to go ahead and pull them up. You're going to do some work on the whiteboard. You got during the text where you're going to, sometimes you're going to model. That's an I do, we do together. But you want a lot of them in a small group. It's no longer kind of the round robin. You want to take that 20 minutes and really hone in on each one of those kids and give them time, listen to them reading. You're taking notes, documenting what they can and can't do so that you can plan either tomorrow's lesson or plan next week's lesson based on the patterns you're seeing, okay? And then you got after the text where you're discussing, you're going into your and really it's about talking, and we have a really, I don't mind our reading series, but our reading series unfortunately came with about 6 years worth of worksheets. And worksheets, we don't do worksheets in our life. We have conversations, we have discussions, we critically think about things, and then maybe we write about it. So that's where we really need to get to. So, and then you see teaching for processing strategies. So whatever skill I'm working on with kids, I'm going to spend some time on that, and then we always want to finish it up with some word work. So that's just kind of a little bit of that framework. Trina, if we'll come back to this, just go to the next slide. It fits more, and then we'll come back to data. So literacy. So while school closures and extended timelines, when we met, we went over this. Chrissy and I went over our ramps and what our kids need to do, but then we started looking at what do we want to accomplish really during February and March. Obviously, we haven't been here for 10 days, essentially. But this is what we're working on. Again, we're guide reading, small group instruction. We're bringing running records to meetings. We're discussing instructional practices. A running record would be if I want to sit and listen to Constance and she's reading a book, I'm just going to make check marks. Is she reading the words correctly? And I'm looking for patterns, okay? So we're starting to bring those running records to these meetings so we can sit down and talk about the patterns we're seeing in our kids. Or if I've got trouble, I can't figure out what the heck's Constance doing, I can't get her to move. I can't get her to improve, and I need some help. We can start having those conversations. We're also getting in and doing some observations. Again, a little difficult over the last 2.5 weeks or so, but that's kind of our goal. And again, we're focusing on instructional strategies based on the observations and needed supports identified by teachers. And, and parents too. Parents want to see those grades coming home. They want to see that worksheet. They want to see that spelling test because that's what we know. But as a teacher, if I can reduce some of that and spend more time with kids reading and then writing about their reading and trust myself and my anecdotal notes of where that kid's levels they're at, we can grow that kid a lot more than a worksheet. And I'm guarantee I put this in my blog post. There's not a kid sitting at home right now waiting to get back to school on Monday and hoping that he gets to do a stack of worksheets. If they are, I don't know about them, but so anyway, go back to literacy data. If you click on that, there should be a link and take you to our spreadsheet. And then if you click on, oh, great.
We did that one other time, so.
Let's see here. Hold on.
Can we get it in our email?
Let me, I'm going to share it with you, Trenda, real quick. Yeah.
So while Chad's figuring that out, I've shared this with him, but before COVID shut us down, we were able to visit a school in Virginia that had increased their literacy scores and their performance scores overall more than any other district in the country.
Click on Dibbles.
One of their 5 non-negotiables were they didn't discourage, they banned the use of worksheets. That's how, of all the things they could have picked, when they picked their 3 to 5 key actions to do and to change, eliminating, abolishing worksheets was one of the top 5.
Which, I will tell you this though, that unfortunately the contract we're in, part of that plan was every year we get this semi-load of workbooks. So, if you,
How long are we in the contract?
not for too much longer.
Yeah, we're almost out.
We're almost out because
I'd like to hear.
here's the challenge we have too, is we need more text. We need more text and like sets of text of probably at least 6 copies so we can sit down with a small group and read with kids. And so I just wanted to show you, this is the composite. So when you do DIBELS, and DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. They're 60-second probes that kids take. There's letter naming fluency, there's phoneme segmentation where they break the sounds, the word out. There's nonsense words, so if I am a high reader, or I can word call because I can memorize, they have to decode those nonsense words. So it takes those tests and then gives us a composite score. So you can see the blue is in the fall, and you can see we had close to 50, I think this is 46% in intensive, and that dropped to about 10%. And the same thing, so above core, we went from around, I think this is 18% to above 50%. So you can see we literally shifted this whole graph for kindergarten. First grade, again, I think we made some gains here. We decreased our intensive, we grew our above core, and we grew our core. So
Why would we do that in kindergarten?
say that again.
Why? What do we attribute
Well,
that
there's a couple things. I think when you look at one, this is big on phonemic awareness. We've implemented Haggerty. I would bank a lot of this on Haggerty and our systematic processes we're getting in place. You also, when the younger they are, the easier it is to grow. I mean, I hate, so, but still, that says a lot about this. I attribute a lot of this to the Haggerty that we're doing. Haggerty is it's a 10 to 15 minute lesson. Your preschooler gets
we
it.
do it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
So it's amazing.
It is.
So you look at first grade, again, first grade, if you scroll over or drag it, you should be able to get. Second grade, you can see the same pattern though, where we went from a lot of, again, I think we were at 43% here, and we shifted that shrunk, and you can see how that came. So we took a lot of these kids and moved them to here. And then third grade composite.
Hey Chad, I have a question.
Yes.
What is the first group? I can't see that far.
I don't know what, this is a mistake here, but this is intensive, strategic, core, or above. And I will tell you, I did my master's thesis on the predictability of DIBELS, and DIBELS, and primarily oral reading fluency. And at the time, I was using a second grade diagnostic, or maybe I think I did a second grade. We did a third grade reading at the time, and I came up with a cut score, where this is pretty accurate. If a kid progresses, and that's the idea. So you got to take these kids that are here, and you got to continue to grow them. Third grade is primarily oral reading fluency. But you can see we kind of stayed here, but we moved some kids, and we still got some work to do there. But we're actually from this data too, and from our third grade fall scores, April's now we're shifting, and we're making sure we're hitting all of our kids that are still not on track, and we're trying to give them that extra boost right before the fall. I don't know what that one is. I didn't catch it. I'll have to clean that up. But anyway, so that's our DIBELS data. It kind of aligns with what STAR's telling us. And, I used to be a DIBELS junkie because it's an easy 1 minute It takes you about 5 minutes to do a kid, and you can get a real good snapshot of where your kids are. It's not the end all, but it gives you a good snapshot. And so anyway, that's our literacy update. We're going to continue to do some things. So this was, I think this is overall, so this is our entire building. When you take all of our kids, so we are at a little over 30, I think we're at 38% here, and we reduced that number down to 20. So this is taking all of our kids K3. So you can see, again, we shifted it from all of our intensive kids, and we grew it to this side. So that's, you know, we've essentially flipped those graphs. So that's, we'll just have to see. I hope we get back into school and keep our hands on kids, and I don't necessarily want to put hands on kids, but keep them in front of us. And, you know, I'm really, you know, to think of the amount of time that our kids have had off, I'm pretty happy with this data. And I think it's only going to get better. One thing I didn't put in is, you know, we're getting ready to add 4 through 8. We're going to start working on tightening up that instruction so that whether it's writing or reading, we've got that progression, and it looks, so a good reader looks the same in all classrooms. And we really have a K-8 literacy plan, which right now we've got our K3 done, and so we spent a little bit of time over that the last couple of days in our work days. So,
Hey, Chad, if I make a couple of statements, can you promise me you'll correct me if you don't think I'm accurate?
Okay.
We go back to the selection of the reading series, which we empowered those teachers and those grades to come together to choose the series in which they wanted. And they did that. After receiving the series, less than months later, we had multiple teachers in multiple grade levels all choosing I really don't want that after all. I'd really rather do this, I'd rather do that. One of the things that's having to change, in my opinion, to bring these scores up is we have to have some uniformity across all classrooms in a given grade while also differentiating for individual student needs. Understand that when you do that, it creates great teacher discomfort. Understand that, and that is a shift that we're trying to make in that building. It should not matter who you have as a teacher in what grade. My instruction shouldn't vary drastically when I'm in one of 4 classrooms in the same grade level. Well, it starts at the basis of we do the same stuff. We evaluate using the same assessment. We use apples to apples comparisons because that's what a real TVT is all about. You get together and say, gee whiz, Constance, why did your kids do so well on this and mine struggled, yet mine did a little bit better than Lori's in this area? But that's a real conversation to have. We've never taken advantage of that. So quite honestly, there's been people that stood here before you and tried to lead you to believe that those conversations were happening. But I'm just going to tell you, they never happened. I said anything inaccurate yet, Chad?
No. And I will listen. And a textbook is a lot easier way of teaching. If I got a reading series in front of me, and I ain't gonna bash textbooks, I guess, especially reading. The idea that we're all on the same reading level in this room, and we're all going to read from the same text, and it's not quite that. Journeys is not quite like that. But the idea that I've got a scripted textbook and manual that I'm going to go through, because, you know, if reading were a straight line, it'd be one thing, but we really got to get into the guided reading. And it is a high stress level, because when I pull that book off my shelf, or I can go down to the library and get 6 books to read with the kid, there is no set of plans for me to do with that book. And especially those first couple, 3 years when you've got new books and you don't know what book I need to pull to work on Long E, or this rule, or I want to work on infancy, and you don't have a set of books, it's a stress, because it's the time that it takes to build that. And, you know, so I think it'll be a process, but
back in the fall, you shared the literacy plan with us.
Yeah.
And one of the goals was extra help and support. Are we getting that?
The biggest thing with extra help and support is like what we did. Well, and that's what Chrissy and I, we met and we reviewed our data from STAR and everything. And we reassessed, looked to make sure we're covering those kids, okay? But the extra help and support also is amongst ourselves, that professional development piece. That's been a challenge. And I told them the other day, I said, listen, pre-COVID, when we put this literacy plan together and think we're going to do this, we didn't realize we're going to be short 4 subs someday. So there's no way I'm scheduling a PD day with you. But we're getting to the point now to where I've got a couple new people starting if we ever come back to school. And I feel like, the mass quarantines that we're getting, I shouldn't even talk about it. But I hope we can start doing some things where, maybe one morning I got kindergarten and then in the afternoon I got second grade because, it's just feeling confident and it's feeling comfortable because, when you're trying to if you're still unsure because you're learning and then you got to sit down with the family and tell them about their child's reading level and they're used to seeing letter grades even as a first or second grader and they don't understand that you have fewer grades. It's just it's a growth curve but you got to be, if you're not growing, anytime you're trying to grow, you're going to be uncomfortable. And
Jack, Chrissy had something.
Yeah, we did. We set first semester goals for our students, and that's what we've been doing. We evaluated their progress, and so we set goals for the second semester, trying to provide support and differentiation, meeting the kids at their level. So we did. We looked at the DILS face-to-face data, compared that to the computer data, and I think have a nice plan moving forward to provide them.
And that extra help and support, like we have Kathy Schaefer. Who else do we have coming in? Well, Kathy does remote learning. She is connecting with kids remotely who are staying remote. That's been a challenge. I mean, that is, again, no excuse, but it is challenging this year because all of our tutors and everybody, they're elderly. We do have, that's terrible. The retired, she just started this year. She's retired from, I see her pull up in her little Lexus. She gets out, comes in and tutors every day, and
we have 3 tutors, working.
She's retired from Coldwell.
Janet Crum?
No? Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
Well, and so when we meet on the 27th, thanks, Chad, and I'll tell you, in my 8 years here, we're making more strides in literacy in the most difficult times than we have in the best of times. And as I've told the board before, I don't think we have a better team than Chrissy and Chad, and then when you add Marcy to the mix, we have a great idea of where we are. I will also tell you, and I didn't have it tonight, but we'll show it on the 27th. If you go back to our kindergarten readiness scores, pre-expansion of preschool and post-expansion, it's awesome. You don't have to wonder if your investment in preschool is creating greater kindergarten readiness scores. It's off the charts.
Doesn't that create long-term challenges for you? Because we're raising the bar, we're setting expectations high. Now we have kids that are more advanced, say. I mean, they're coming into kindergarten knowing so much more than they ever have. So where do we go?
And that's what some of our discussion has been. Okay, now our kindergartners are where they need to be and beyond, which is awesome. How do we maintain and excel as we get to 3rd grade and continuing to adjust this plan? Definitely.
But one thing that you don't say is, wow, everything's so much easier for them now.
No.
Right? That's about all I know about it, but you don't say that.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. All right, anything else, Jeff?
No, I will say I'm excited about like April 8th and things and our course catalog. We are going to try, our goal next year is to run the schedule we wanted to run this year and give kids options. I got an email from a parent. He's not doing well in this class and he didn't even want to take it. And I'm thinking, well, last year before he would have had to take it regardless. So he's getting a taste of something. But, we hope that we can offer, the course selections, we want to let kids do some choices. You know, Justin and I were talking about ramping up, you know, how we get more 8th graders even up to high school. And, you know, but there's so many moving pieces of that to make it work. But, you know, I mean, just now, I mean, we got kids soldering down and they're building Mars rovers. That's really exciting. Their kids are, you know, the cooking they're doing. You know, we got, I think next year we'll truly have a VEX robotics team. I know we will. We're going to make that one of our teams with the goal of beating Jarvis's team, hopefully. And a little challenge. That'd be fun.
Well, thank you. Hey, Herman, and I would tell you to spread the word, and you'll be getting one, but the community, whether you have kids, grandkids or not, are going to be invited in during that April 8th so they can see what's happening differently here in our district. So make sure you mark that on your calendar and come out and snoop around. April 8th. Thank you.
Couple things. I don't have slides or anything. I just kind of keep you updated on what I'm thinking about a little bit. I gave Dan, and he can talk to you after the meeting, so to speak. But prom and graduation are on my radar among the kids as well. And I shared with Dan, you know, prom needs to be postponed and pushed back, or, you know, I'm willing to do that again, or whatever needs to happen. But it's just tough. It's a tough situation there. And then graduation, obviously, what we did last year worked one at a time. It was an awful long day for us.
Yeah.
But I am writing 2 variants, one for outside and one for inside. Try to have 84 graduates, which I think is an awesome, pretty good sized number for this class. But I'm also going to write variants for outside and inside. And try to, you know, if you did an outside and I tried to give you 4 tickets, that's 336 guests. We had football games. I don't know if we had that, you know, so I'm in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And then when you think about an inside graduation, 84 graduates times 2 guests, puts you at 168. Our basketball game number, or magic number, is 130. I can use the floor, you know what I mean, to seat a few more people to maybe get me to that 168. So, I mean, it's worth a try. The kids want me to try, and, you know, we're going to try. So Dan has that paper, you guys can see it, talk about it, tell me that's terrible, or whatever. So that's one thing. Dan mentioned the pathway development. You know, we're really pushing with Zane State right now to make sure that we have these things in place starting next year, especially with the farm development. One is called an Associates of Science Technical Studies, and you can get a 2-year certificate within that program. If you complete the program, it's a 2-year certificate. Or you're not necessarily the college kid that wants to go and get that certificate. There's also a 12-point credential for pathway graduation, where you don't necessarily decide to go earn a certificate, but you have a pathway to graduation within the ag program. So I thought that was fantastic work right there. And then the other one is actually going to be 2 that the medical pathway. So it's funny, Herman's sitting here, because he'll understand this one a little bit. The first one is called Multi-Skilled Health Tech Certificate. So basically, in talking with Stacy Parks and Heather Shepard and Beth and Emma and I, we kind of get this idea off the ground. Stacy Parks says they cannot staff enough techs. They're hiring them, you know, Cambridge, Marietta. It's like instant job. Well, they're willing to basically, if I can build the hospital room here somewhere, and we got some ideas for that, we can provide that tech 30-hour pathway on this campus. Always. And how are we going to pull that off? Well, it's interesting. Nellie has worked and got herself credentialed, so she can offer anatomy and physiology 1 and 2. So that's a big help. That science is now on board a little more. Let's see. The next little piece to the puzzle is Lauren Thompson, our nurse. I sent her credentials into Zane State. I was supposed to hear today. I did not hear today. But they're talking about what she's going to be able to be credentialed and possibly be able to teach, and she's excited about it. So if she can offer 5 meta classes, so to speak. I mean, we literally have everything here. I mean, health and first aid is already here, medical terminology is already here. So it's just kind of crazy, all those things that we're able to do. That's a 30-hour certificate all on this campus. And that said, I also feel like moving down the line, that's a great spot to jump off into an evening class for adults, because it's an instant job. So I think that's a really cool spot for us to be in with the satellite campus, that we can offer something in the evening as well. Why does that matter to her? Well, let's say you're not necessarily going in the medical tech pathway, but you're going in the medical pathway, but you're going like Max, and Max wants to be a doctor. So Max's pathway, there's a medical pathway with an Associates of Science with a concentration in biology. That's more up. So totally different clientele between maybe health tech and Max wants to be a doctor, but still surgery. And most of those classes are also already here as well. Sure.
There's a lot of money being made available from the state as far as these jobs, and that's the lieutenant governor, I think. You know about that, Justin, where they're providing money for technical training and certification?
Tech credit.
Tech credit, exactly, I think you did. And, you know, he who takes advantage of the low-hanging fruit gets the fruit. So there's a possibility maybe we can get some funding from the state to develop, because a lot of this stuff is infrastructure.
Tech credit comes up at our business advisory, which you can have. So,
okay, all right, well,
yep,
I'm just throwing money.
You're right on. No, you're exactly right. And one little note I skipped over in the Associates of Science Technical Studies Ag Pathway. We rewrote the CTE 26. It was just for the Ag program, which was basically just kind of re-up and redeal, right? But we were also able, because Eric and Matt are going over to the grade school and kind of doing the intro to ag recruiting class, so to speak. And truly. And we wrote a CT 26 for that class, and their classes for seventh grade. So yeah, sure like that one. So that's pretty cool. The next bullet, I got a big thank yous truly to Beth and Emma, Stacy Parks, and Heather Shepherd, because I call the meeting, get everybody together. They run the show. You know what I mean? That's just been very good. And another little plug at Stacy Parks, and while Herman's here, we're already sending our kids down there for the internship. Max and Christian both did it. Yeah. And so we got a direct pipeline with them. We've kind of been dominating that program for the last couple of years. So it's just the right time to strike at this. Anyway, okay, so moving on. Big kudos to Emma. Emma received, and I don't know my son. Emma received, she worked and received the Ohio Department of Education selected SHS as a Purple Star designee. Thank you for your commitment to military-connected youth and families. So we're a Purple Star Award school. Thanks to Emma. Things that we're working with the Purple Star, we're supposed to get a banner. Don't have it yet, but we don't get one, we're just gonna make it. And things that we are, it is for our support to military families. We got that. Yeah, we got that. We are going to create a military wall in the building somewhere here. And put everyone that served. So that's going to be a big project to get the volume of people and recognize them. Dan's also mentioned it'd be nice to have some of the crew member pictures from the USS Shenandoah in here as a history lesson for our kids. I think that's awesome.
And that would help people understand also where the Navy Star comes from, because they were actually servicemen. I think that would be nice.
Yep, and that would be too. We also recognize all of our seniors now with Red, White, and Blue Corps that are going on into the military. Sean Miller was part of that, and what he's done with the Veterans Day program, which has been really, really good over the last few years. And then we're also, and Eric's already been doing this military appreciation money to let those folks into, every season of everything we do. So that's pretty cool. So excited. Kudos to Emma. Next little tidbit I got for you. We got our STEM banner, which we got STEM designated last March, late March. And we finally got that, Chad did too, and it just happened. I just wanted to bring it down, we'll get that framed and up and hanging in here. I use that logo, I also want to use our STEM logo and get some signage going around the building with that. Just an interesting STEM PBL type discussion just happened today. You know, the first semester, we challenged our teachers to do one PBL within their room. You know, I'm gonna throw you to the wolves yet, do it within your room. They all did, and they shared their ideas out, and they found out that they have a lot of commonality. Like, wow, I could work with, that was neat, I could play off of that. And then in the second semester, right now, we are tasked out to do a level 2 where I have to work with at least one other discipline and other teacher. So it might be Matt's work with Julie Harper with ag and the maple syrup. We'll just make you the star of this. We'll just keep bringing you back. And but he has worked with her, so that they're joint PBL. And maybe we move next year to a third level PBL where it's the whole school playing into something at the bar. Because that's truly easy to do between business and photography. I mean, just name it. So that would be really, really cool. So that's something we're working on, and I'm proud to have the STEM designation. I mentioned Lauren getting credentialed in the meta classes. I also want to mention that Mark Smith was credentialed to also be able to offer some classes as well, or because he has a master's in physical therapy. So I got all his transcripts. I'll go grab his transcripts. If anybody's got transcripts, I'll take it. And I'll try to plan your life for you. But I thought that was really a neat thing as well. I've always been very intrigued with like intro to athletic training, essentially, or something along those lines that our kids would like. So that was kind of my thought there. And then lastly, we've started, and we've been through 2 days now, and John participated first day in Lean Six Sigma training, and that's begun. Everybody in the building has their yellow belt, and then we have 8 people on the team moving toward their green belt, and eventually what we'll be able to do is offer that yellow belt with 3-point credential to students. That's what we want to be able to pass on to go.
That's a biggie to business. I'm a quality assurance manager, retired down at College. Six Sigma, you know, just in time, all those things. That's a big ticket item. And team building, you know, execution, plan, do, check, act. I keep busting Julie Harper's case about plan, do, check, act. It's part of the interview process, you know.
The wheel, I feel like I never get out of.
Well, you know what?
Plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, act.
Well, it's actually asymptotic. In other words, you never reach the limit. It always
right.
So
the limit is never. That's right.
You're never there, and that's what Mr. Leffingwell keeps talking about. And it was never there. Which I like.
Perfect. And what he said there, it's basically a model related to team-based problem solving. Truly, what it's about is what's the problem, and we're going to build a team and solve the problem, and you become more efficient and things like that.
That's the biggest on the I don't know if you know, on the area workforce development chair for Noble, Morgan, Monroe, and Washington County. That's the biggest challenge that the employers want to know is, can our people problem solve? Are they responsible? You know, all the soft skills. But they want to know, can they get a problem solved? So, it just reinforces what you're doing.
Perfect segue. And that, many thanks to Maximum Potential, Brad Hollingsworth, and that's part of the Farm Bureau grant that Beth received when we talked about that. So the funding for that came from that. So, and that's all I'm having.
Now, there is no one in our region replicating what's happening right here in Otis. So it's moving very fast. I told Justin this. I got to tell you, make sure you touch a little bit on the medical pathway because we're just going through that and we really haven't talked a lot about it here in this stuff. But to have all those opportunities right here in Sarahsville is amazing. So good work by all. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. Anything for Justin?
Are we doing IT winners or was there? Okay. I have.
Who was?
Well, it was on
My IT winner was Jarvis. I talked to you there about Christmas time and said that made $1,100 just at Christmas time and all the different things he's done. But truly, and just getting us ready with all that plexiglass, this dude is relentless. And so Jarvis was my IT winner, and then my students in the grading period and all that have been shared.
Chad, you're right.
My IT winners are our cafeteria staff. I mean, the things we're doing to pack up meals, to send down to the middle school, and then the way, I mean, they do it twice a day. They do it with breakfast, and then they do it, turn around, and do it again with lunch, and the things they're allowing us to do. But they've really, it's been fantastic. They're looking forward to a traditional lunch schedule next year, possibly, but thank you.
So the other thing that Justin can touch on just a minute, but we are starting a new effort here, a new venture. If you remember, I talked to you a little bit about a small business incubator, and we decided for a lot of reasons that wasn't a good idea. It required an investment up front. We just wasn't sure if it was going to fit, and we continue to work alongside Brad Peoples and some other partners in our area. We really decided that what our region and our community in general was lacking was any type of web-based commerce or e-commerce. We felt like we could begin those efforts by involving our kids. We could start with products that we produce here, and then we could also start with a core group of 6 to 8 community partners where we could actually help market their stuff via the web and e-commerce. And what was odd is we were having this conversation the other day, and it was actually Eric Van Fleet says, "Oh my gosh, I just signed a contract with an e-commerce group to market the Dandy Beef Company." So I said, "Well, next year you don't have to do that." And Brad Peoples, as our commissioner, has hit this at light speed, and things have came together so much faster. We really thought that this effort would begin next school year. We really think that it's probably, well, it would have started on the 16th. But now we're probably looking at sometime next week to kind of get that coordinated and going. But obviously that will also have great connections to things that happen at the farm, within the greenhouse, within our community. There are so many, we'll talk about it later. There's so many things, and there's so many ways that this all comes together. But e-commerce is certainly going to be able to put, Noble County products on a worldwide platform. Anything you want to add to that?
I would just add, I've constantly and continually been thinking, like, when you take Ag Capstone, like, don't just take Ag Capstone. What is your project? What is it that you want to do or make? Or what? If you want to make a gun cabinet in Advanced Woods, I want you to make 2 gun cabinets in Advanced Woods and sell one on our site, and then yours is free. Like, why are you spending money in it? Why aren't you making it? You know what I mean? So if work comes out in her senior year and wants to do something to make a little money, and she talked about freshwater shrimp one week, I just thought, wow, I never even heard of such a thing. So if you want to have that type of project, or have flowers in the greenhouse and we're selling them, the things that Jarvis is making in the back, if the audience was bigger, who knows? So Julie Harper's going to do kind of a multimedia class next year as well. That'll play into this. She's a player. Coach Ross Judith's class and store ideas. That's a player. But big opportunities. Our kids need to think a little outside the box and make this go a little further than our bubble. So
but it's going to also engage our kids with community because our kids will manage the site, and they will have to work with the local vendors to help transfer the orders, do all this. So there's going to be a lot of interaction between community and our students, and it's going to be a great project. And we're starting small with 6 to 8 local partners in ourselves. But as you can imagine, if you just start thinking about that, the opportunities are truly unlimited.
Can I just interface with one other point? If you look at a Pareto of the in-demand jobs in our area, specifically it's IT, medical technology, and, getting a job, getting out there, getting hired by the hospitals or the facilities, and then they will help pay these kids to go back to school or to get a stipend, that kind of stuff. So,
And you get your med tech certificate, and you go work at Marietta Memorial.
Yeah.
That's part of Stacy Parks' pitch. We're gonna then pay for you to go back. You may end up being an RN or whatever, and they're gonna pay for it.
get them in the mainstream. The other thing is that I really like here is there's a deal with Ohio University School of Business, 44 in the School of Business. They do this. They interface with all kinds of local areas. So we had a think tank at Shenandoah of kids who were helping with developing websites. That's on-the-job experience. That is a major deal to employers. How much experience do you have? Show me your portfolio, your, whatever. So on-the-job training starts right here, and they don't even realize it. They're hands-on.
If you get to your senior year, my goal is that you have enough freedom within your schedule by your senior year that if you want half a day to work in e-commerce, you got it. It's there. You can focus on that. And you want to work on the farm, you got it. It's there. You don't have to go anywhere. You can work here.
You're nurturing passion. And that to me is a big deal. In all of our jobs, it's passion.
I believe that you could. So if you think back, because don't ever think we acted out in isolation. Go back to 2015 when we went to Gulfport, Mississippi. See, how do you revive your community after Katrina decimates it? You do it through All Roads Lead to a Job, and you bring back hope to your community because you're linking to them that their future can be brighter, and they have the power. We bring things here, provides access. Our kids don't have to drive to Zanesville. They don't have to drive to Marietta. We can bring it all here to them. It generates hope and enthusiasm. The other thing that we're talking about, I know Philip's sitting back here, it gets tougher for a small school to offer full credential programs because we have so few kids in each pathway. So what we're also talking about is, and I'm working with ODE right now on this too, to have a skill credential where there's a list of, I'm just going to use a random number, 100 skills. And if you learn or have exposure to a certain percentage of them, you earn this. Are you a master welder? No, but I can weld. I can saw it. I can do this. I have some business. I have OSHA 10. I have my Lean 6. I have a strong basis to be a fantastic employee. So we're calling that, we're creating transferable skills that don't prepare kids for something, it prepares them for anything. So when we go in our grant cycle, this is all we do, by the way. When we go into our grant cycle, all the grants want to know this. If we give you the money to do X, who's going to hire your kids? Well, what you know is, right here in our community, there's not one single employer, but across an hour and a half radius, there's 100. And they're not all looking for the same skills. So we are intentionally addressing and acknowledging that we may not lead to a credential on the back end, but we're going to produce intentionally a broad set of skills among each of our kids who experience at the farm, the medical lab, and numerous other areas. And you also forgot that we also will have credentials next year of speech and lit.
Yeah.
Truly, our kids don't have to leave for anything.
You don't need a credential as much as you just need a certification or something that gives you recognition. The state wants that. They don't. There's all kinds of money being made available, but you got to have some kind of process that shows development.
And last thing we'll leave you with, ODE sends, calls me, they send an email, and of all the school districts in the state, they're wanting to talk to us about piloting a tech internship for students, and we're meeting with them now. That call came in this morning, we're meeting Monday at 11 a.m.
What is it, Dan?
The tech internship. That's about all we know. I sent the email to Justin and Phil, said, I just wanted you guys to get this on your radar.
I put 11 o'clock on the relay.
So it's happening. And these are the kind of things we can get. This is why April 8th is so important. And we want people to know that this is not, it's not and it can't be what it was. So when you talk about 5 and 10-year plans, this is why 5 and 10-year plans are impossible. You have a strong entry into what you want to do. You try to make all your spaces as flexible and as adaptable as you can, because in 2020, 2021, things change rapidly. And you have to be prepared to shift gears, to predetermine that I'm going to be in a certain spot in 10 years is what we did in the Industrial Revolution. Now we build things as we go to be adaptable and flexible so we can change as the needs change. We don't determine the need. Our industry and business partners determine the need, and we have to be able to change in an instant. So that's it.
And tying back to our past too, I don't know if you saw on Facebook or Twitter, I put out that I want the logos for Batesville, Summerfield. So if any of you have any connection to those things, I want to do some old t-shirts. I think that'd be just fun. We'll do one that has all the logos with us in the middle, then do a Batesville Beaver one, you know. And somebody brought in, I got a cup and a megaphone from Batesville. It's in the showcase up there with the old blunt that was on the flagpole that I didn't have the heart to throw away, that looks terrible, but it's in there. So if anybody has stuff, I still want to connect the old Shenandoah to what we're doing now.
So my 7th grade basketball uniform, I could bring it from Summerfield.
Wear it in.
Oh. Yeah.
Please, no.
So one-legged.
So last thing before we move on. When we talk about being flexible, we all grew up in an era of school that things were pretty much static. They did not change. You're a level 1, you're a level 2, you're a level 3. You're general, you're basic, you're college prep. You got in that hole and you never left. Your family, all your kids go to college. Your family all works at the plant. Your family all farm. That's all we can ever do. You can't cross out of your box. Well, now you think about the literacy data, and we're talking about growing individual kids. And this 9 weeks, this kid needs extra help. All of a sudden, it clicks, and he's ready to go from a group needing extra help to maybe on track or advanced. And all of a sudden, the kid that came into a certain grade level advanced, all of a sudden at Christmas time, they're stumbling a little bit. They need extra help. We've got to be able to slide kids back and forth, because if 90% of the jobs are going to be STEM related, and we want to provide access to all kids to STEM careers, they have to get to upper level math and ELA and science. And it's not college for everybody, but the level of coursework is very rigorous. If we predetermine you to be in a certain group and we're inflexible in being able to move you in and out of those groups, then we're only going to prepare about 33% of our kids for 90+% of the jobs. But we can't operate like that.
You know, I walked out of here one night, and the kids sitting on the bench out there had computers they were taking home, and I don't know, they had built them here. Well, that kid is now in cybersecurity program in Zane State. They bought his laptop. They just give him everything he possibly needed, and he's in cybersecurity now. Which he would have had absolutely no idea that was even a possibility, but for the fact that we got robotics and Jarvis and Spartan interest and Philip and we loaned them back.
Well, thanks. Good stuff happened. All right, Mr. President, back to you.
All right, moving on.
Guys, you can head to the hills if you want. Or if you're here for the entertainment. Stay here.
Treasurer report.
I
have them.
Thanks, John.
He does.
I want to go there. This is Harvard.
What are we gonna make?
All right, guys, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night, Herman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Chad.
I have the minutes of the December meeting for your approval. If you remember correctly, I didn't have those quite ready for you at the last meeting, so that's why you see an extra set of minutes at this meeting.
Motion,
Yep. Second.
Archer, McElroy.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stottsbury,
Yes.
McKee. Okay, we had our organizational meeting last month.
Motion. Stottsbury, second. Carpenter.
Stottsbury,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
And then we had the regular January meeting.
Questions, comments, motion?
Motion.
Archer, second. Stottsbury.
Archer,
Yes.
Stottsbury,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
I have a series of financial reports attached there for your approval. They include the monthly summary, the January disbursements report, the cafeteria report from Nutrition Group, and our cash basis cafeteria report.
That's one quick question on the American Telephone. Is that part of the contract that we renewed, or there's two invoices on there? One, I believe, was for 7, almost 8,000. The other one was for a little over 12. Was one of those part of the contract we have fulfilled?
I can look up the specifics for you. American Telephone is Sam Turner.
Yeah.
He's our vendor, and he does do our,
Relocate. Okay.
yep. So, but I can look up the specifics for you. Do
Okay.
Any other questions?
you want that prior to approval, or do you, okay,
I figured that's what it was.
yeah.
Everybody good?
Agent, I have a question, just
Sure.
general. So the government, because of COVID, is providing free meals for students. Like, how are we reimbursed for that?
So, they do count those meals every time one is served, a breakfast and a lunch, and then there's a reimbursement process. If Lorraine, I can get you more details on the actual, but she submits the reports, we approve them, then they pay us on a monthly basis,
That
actually.
was my question, how?
Yep.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
That's,
I mean, I would
I guess-
assume you might get a pin in the year, That's great, monthly.
Yeah, every month, and it's pretty much on the money. You can easily predict about what day it's gonna hit the bank account. It gets direct deposited. That's one we don't, CRRS is one we don't usually have trouble with, so.
Any other questions? Motion?
Motion.
Carpenter, second.
Second.
McElroy.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Stottsbury,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes. Superintendent's report and recommendations.
Well, absolutely. Before we get into it, just thanks for enduring us. It's just, sometimes it's hard to get caught up on everything and, but you know what's going on. We're obviously proud and energized by it. So we look forward to continuing forward. Personnel matters, just ask your approval of the following. You see several substitute contracts there, including John Jones. You also see several supplementals. And we also have one classified contract revision. We made an error last year and gave a 1, and it should have actually been a 2. So this vote here actually approved that to the way that it should have been.
Questions, comments? Motion?
Motion.
Somebody? McElroy? Archer? I couldn't guess where it came from. It's gonna be bad.
McElroy, does it matter who's first and second then? Okay, McElroy,
Yes.
Archer,
Yep.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stottsbury,
Yes.
McKee.
Item 5.2, general business matters.
everything there, including the renewal of our Zane State College partnership, free college credit plus, a free apprenticeship program for plumbers and pipe fitters, open enrollment program, honor of the state. Then we also see a request there for the alumni tournament. We're going to approve that with dates TBA, just so we can confirm all dates and everything that we wanted is going to be able to work. And that's it.
Motion,
Motion.
Archer second. McElroy.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stoutsbury,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
Okay, item 5.3 is an authorization to proceed with the use of House Bill 153 design build delivery method for the capital improvement project and designated authorized representative with the authority to make project decisions, etc. So understand the key word here, it's a method. All we're asking, this is the next step. You also see there under executive content, you have a calendar, and we can go through this calendar, so I think it makes things more clear. But understand, this is exactly the same process that we've used previously. But approval of this only takes us to the next step on the calendar. There's no guarantees of money, and I'm going to try to address some of the questions that have been risen or have been, asked while going through this calendar. So the first step, and let me back up for a minute. We did not anticipate originally that we were going to use a design build in the farm project. We thought we were just going to do traditional competitive bidding. The reason that we have changed to a design build is because when you're looking at pole barn structures or pre-engineered metal buildings, every company, every system has a different set of specifications. But you would not want me to advise you to go competitive bidding and have an architect design with only use of one system. Because then you're shrinking your bid pool, correct, Guy? So design build gives us the greatest variety. So what will happen, we approve tonight, you can kind of look at the dates. Then the next thing that we have to do is we have to put out a request for statement of qualifications. What people are out there are qualified to serve as a criterion architect on this project. Okay, we get a list of those, we have a scoring sheet, we pick it. Okay, then the next step that happens, we have a list of criteria. So for example, Josh has met with the farm committee at least twice. He's been here with our ag teachers a couple times. We've networked and we have a list of everything that we want. He will develop a list of criteria. That list of criteria will be all encompassing from access and egress to excavation plans, to sewer, to electric, utilities, construction of the building. Okay, that would actually go out. You're seeing that these things wouldn't even go out until late March. Then people would request. It could be a Morton building provider and their contractor. It could be Butler, who's pretty heavily involved in the ag industry. It could be a whole number of people. It was mentioned, well, are we talking to an ag engineer? Ag companies, people that specialize in ag, will be given every opportunity to be involved in this project through this process. This gives us the most variety of people that can request a quote or proposal, an RFP or an RFQ. Guy, you're involved in this. Would you agree with everything I've said so far? This gives us our best chance. If you look at the timeline, you wouldn't even select a design builder until April 27th, with construction starting sometime in June. So what happens if you work through that whole process and the cost of everything is skyrocketed and the numbers come back at 3.2 million? Then you get to a point where you postpone, or you go back and say, okay, what can we do for 1.5? We'll only do a portion maybe of the project, or maybe we'll do something completely different. I can't even get a quote without approval of a process in which to do so. So if this gives us the best bet to get the most quotes and the most competitiveness in the pole building or pre-engineering, then I need approval of this process. It does not limit us to anything. The other thing is, understand in this process, we're not piecemealing this. We're not asking somebody to do the barn and then we're having conversations with ODOT about the access. That's all, when people are chosen as the contractor, they take care of all that permitting, 100%. That's their job, whether it's sewer, electric, plumbing, roadways, access, working with ODOT, whoever it is. That's part of this package. So tonight's request is to say, we recognize this gives us the best chance to move forward. It gives us the best chance to really favor a broader range of potential bidders and contractors. And I guess from that point, I would just ask you if you had any other questions that maybe I've forgotten about. So Josh's job in this would simply to put together the criteria package similar to what Al Berger did in previous projects. And then if there's 2 companies, 5 companies, 10 companies, anybody, any number of people could submit or respond to a request for proposal or request for quote, whichever way that you want to look at. So the proposals from these companies that would be interested in this process approved tonight, the earliest we would have those proposals back is April 20th. Every company's plan is going to look a little bit different. If it's a Morton building, if it's American and Butler or whomever it is, it's going to look a little bit different. You guys are all on that. Does that help clarify stuff?
So a lot of those questions that we had and get answered throughout the process.
Oh, absolutely. And then I think the question about that came up a couple times about the forestry part. The part that they're actually going to strip on our property is a very small piece. And I thought it was valid. We absolutely have permission from the coal company that we can use those grounds. We do not yet have the document that we've been waiting to have them in writing. So just this week, they actually made a great offer. Have your own attorney draw it up, and we'll sign it. We're swamped. So we're going to get to draft our own agreement.
He also said that at the round table as well when
Yeah.
we initially met. Well, you know what? I mean, I could get somebody to do it, but you guys just
Do it, I'll sign
do
it.
it, I'll sign it.
So here's the agreement.
That's it.
He's releasing the entire bottom for our use. He knows what we're going to do. He feels 100%. He also accepts the liability if he tells us that we can, and then we have a flooding issue or something crazy like that. Okay? Here's what we have to do in return. At the north end of the property,
He is strong.
I believe north end of the property, there's a fence line that kind of goes like that.
Yeah. Right along
As close to the north end as we can. Here's the creek. We're responsible for putting in a box culvert right here that he's going to use for his haul road to get to the top of the hillside. Maybe, that's correct. But this would be our responsibility. Now, when he's done with the stripping, which, first of all, they're not even going to begin for probably at least 3 to 5 years. We're going to have this road remaining that gives us access to the complete top of our property, as well as, if we want, a certain number of retention ponds that we can choose to keep, or we can choose to fill in when they're done. Yeah, agreed. But so the advantage to us to putting in this when that time comes is the fact that we're going to have road access. It's going to take us all the way down, connect almost just very close to where our nature trail is now. So you would actually have 360-degree access into that entire piece of property. The other thing that we hope to do, you come down here and here's where the old hoot barn used to be. Okay. We're also hoping, here's the state route, and we're hoping that we have something that's almost circular like this is what we're thinking right now. So if we bring a school bus up, we would turn right in here, drop kids, do whatever we need to do. Then we would come back further to the south and exit and go this way. We wouldn't let anybody make a left-hand turn out of this end because that's close to the bottom of the rot. So we would stay on the right side of the road, We go here, exit left further south, closer to the softball field where we have greater visibility. So that's the thought. The other thought is, assuming that we acquire this piece of property, right now, here's the creek. We only have about, 10 to 15 foot right now. Without buying this triangle, we only have about 10 to 15 foot of access between here and the creek. If we buy this triangle, here's the softball. What we'd like to do is get with our excavators and say, let's cut a path here so any tractor that's happened to go from campus or never has to come out on this state road. It can be on campus and it never, we got a kid driving a buggy, we got something, they never have to bring that vehicle out onto the state road at all if we have this. So that's the initial thoughts, but actually talking about this access point, that's part of the permit package that goes in the RFP. That's part of the criteria. That's a good drawing, isn't it? Do you like that, Aiden?
Definitely.
Huh?
That's good.
You got, hey, that's not the scale.
I was gonna say, it's a little out of scale, but
The hoop barn's way too big.
that triangle's pretty big too.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost hits the north end of the property.
Yeah, I know, it's not the scale.
It's okay.
So that's kind of how the process works. So any other questions that you would have about that? Everybody good? Well, and let me say that I really do understand the question, and I didn't mean to be short, but we've been working. You're going to like what you hear on the 27th, because we met today, not just the high school, also the middle school. Like, okay, it's springtime. It's time for scheduling. I'll just tell you what happened. We get a request to go. Came from the elementary middle school to go visit such and such, and we will go visit such and such because it's amazing. But guess what? Nothing we learned from such and such this spring is going to be able to be implemented next year in phase one. So let's don't mind. So what we're all doing is we're preparing our phase one plan about how will this farm initially in phase one, how will we support all the classes that we currently offer? What's the connection to the farm? How will that farm be used as a resource to support the curriculum and the classes that we currently have from middle school through high school? I said, now, also say other possibilities, because you see what happens once you get in, you just things start webbing off and there's natural fits, and it's hard to pin down. What will this look like 10 years from now? I don't know. What will the needs look like? You know, right now there's 90,000 jobs needed in agribusiness. And that's statistics provided by Ohio Farm Bureau. We're using that data to write most of our grants we're working. But that industry is going to look different. Our kids really, that's the difference between now and when we were in school. When we were all in school, the school decided what you were going to need. And now we're in a situation where our partners, business, industry, and our customers, to some degree, determine what classes that we take or we don't take. There's so many choices. There may be a shift. So what we're going to try to do is, it's kind of like this media center. We try to design it to be used for multiple things so that we have that ability to shift and adjust and adapt. So what you're going to hear on the 27th is a pretty solid, here's the wedge in, and here's the example I used today with those guys. If I'm going out to split a big piece of wood, I have to take the first hit at the wedge. I have to get it started. And when I started, I've got a small indentation. When I take the second and third swing, it starts to splinter a little bit more, and the fourth, fifth swing, that's when we blow it apart. That's when things expand. But we got to identify the wedge. If we look at this in too broad a concept initially, I think lots of things get lost in the detail. We need to be very focused about phase one. And the greatest thing about phase one is that it has to be a plan that we can adapt and we can be flexible with to adjust to future needs. That right now, quite honestly, we would just be guessing at what that might be. And so that's the thing too that's different in our era. And this is not just jargon, we're preparing kids for jobs that don't exist today. That's how quickly things are changing. We have to build systems that are adaptable and flexible. So that's all I have on that. And if you have any questions about the process, you're only approving a process in which I can procure bids and requests for proposals. And on the 27th, in the afternoon, Josh and Brittany will be here to talk for about an hour about phase 4 renovations that we're heavy into. That's also a design build. And then the final 2 hours of the day, we'll have Josh here to talk about this process and the criteria that he'll be putting out on our behalf. And then the second part of that session will be talking about the link between the farm and the curriculum and what we're looking at as phase 1. And then also a list of what we anticipate, to the best of our ability, the possible future phases might look like. The other thing that we've talked about is if phase 1 starts next fall, we will likely stay committed in phase 1 and really try to flush out a lot of those things, probably for at least 2 or more years before we really decide to make any major expansion. And that fits well, it's a topic for another time, that fits well with our permanent improvement budget and other projects we have planned in the district.
Well, that also gives you time to figure out what your next phase really is.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, is you don't want to be like High State. We do research and how 5 other companies done the research 3 years ago, and we're just not getting started. You don't want to be behind the 8 ball either.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, we have you're being asked to consider things as a board that quite honestly, your colleagues in other districts, no one's doing the magnitude of stuff that we're doing. The fiscal sustainability of this, I would have to say initially depends upon largely the general fund, obviously. I would tell you that I think our plan is, or will be, is to sell a lot of things because entrepreneurship and the business side of this is really going to be key. But the largest part of the fiscal sustainability is going to come through enrollment. So if you look at it, you talk about enrollment, we immediately think maybe of open enrollment, but I think about enrollment that we maintain by having these options here. And if you think about it in general terms, we added a couple teaching positions. We made a lot of permanent improvements from last year to this, and our cash balance grew. That's because that is the return on investment. That is it. It's enrollment. And if I believe that our chances for fiscal sustainability diminish greatly if we don't move forward with this, because then you know what, our kids aren't going to go without. They're going to take advantage of the opportunities similar to this will be located in Buffalo. So if you think about it, 5 kids staying and 5 kids coming. About 70, just that small number, $70,000 a year, roughly. So that's kind of the plan.
We've already seen some of this growth in our numbers when Justin was talking about how many kids are going to graduate out of his senior class this year. We were seeing numbers in the 50s before. Now we're seeing numbers in the 80s. So just how far we've already come has been.
Have they been trending upwards?
Yeah, and one of the good indicators of that are your kindergarten numbers coming in, preschool and kindergarten compared to your seniors going out. So that the statistics are good in that area as well.
61 at one point, I was willing.
Yeah, so we've already seen a $9 million increase. We know what the preschool return on investment is. I shared those numbers with you. I mean, if you look at $1.5 million budgetary number, and you look at that as a reinvestment of the revenue that you brought in the previous 8 years, it's a small percentage. It's less than $2 million out of the $9 million in hopes to recoup even greater investment. We're not reinvesting 100% or even 50%. We're reinvesting a portion of our revenue that was quite honestly outside our projections. So I shared that information with you. Remember the form I gave you that showed how many kids went to the Career Center 1 year? And how
Oh,
many-
yeah, okay,
Yeah, well, but let me just tell you, that's real numbers. That's real numbers, because before, you were losing that money. You know how many kids we have right now scheduled to leave our campus to go to Zanesville next year? Less than 12. Good. That's the fiscal sustainability that I think about. For the preschool, 72 open enrollment kids in preschool, we're still maintaining 100% of those kids.
How about most of the 12 are either going to start the college or non-school?
Yeah, and you know, and we're not discouraging any of that, you know?
Are you done?
I'm done.
You said that 4 times.
Hey, listen, I'm excited.
Okay. Motion Stotsberg, second.
Second.
Carpenter.
Salisbury,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy.
Yes.
McKee.
Yes. Informational items. Trenda?
I actually, forgot to type it in, but
I'm like, what? I don't think she has anything. Why are you?
I wanted to tell you guys that in the business matters, we approved that contract with local government, Auditor State Local Government Services. And remember last year when I was so concerned about them not being able to do our compilation last year. And then I was even more concerned how I was going to project out into the future with them being able to do our job. But they did submit a proposal, so I'm so very glad that we will have them at least for 1 more year. They'll be doing our compilation. So, and then just in terms of our audit, so our current year compilation is now done, and the audit is nearing completion. There's still some work left to be done on the single audit part, but it'll be soon. So you'll be getting emails about that when the final product comes out.
Dan?
Yeah, a couple of things I won't rehash. Phase 4 update, things are moving along, and as long as you're okay with it, I would just like to kind of put that off until the 27th. But I want to tell you a few highlights in advance. In this building, Phase 4, because I know we get a lot of things going, and it's easy to lose track. Some of the highlights, there's a lot of infrastructure stuff again. There's still some secondary electrical panels. There's a lot of stuff, plumbing. But the things that you're going to see is going to be an auditorium renovation that we're obviously excited about. I will tell you, we've talked a lot about locker rooms. We did postpone the middle school locker rooms. Here's why. We don't want to do just cosmetics here. We have significant plumbing issues still in our locker rooms, and we want to make sure we do that right. We also have another issue here. We only have 3 locker rooms. And if you think about it, all of been the sporting events, you would never build a school today without at least 4 locker rooms. So think about, you have the home team, you have the visiting team, you have officials. You know that right now our officials share the shower room with the home team. We can't do that. And you oftentimes have female officials who referee boys' games. The logistics are there needs to be 4 locker rooms. So what's happening over on I'm just going to call it the boys varsity side. We're changing one of those rooms back there into a training room. And then another room will be a couple showers with an officials dressing area off our PE locker room. Instead of sharing the one shower facility, there'll be a couple showers over here separate. So if we have officials, and then when we go over onto the girls' side, we're organizing, instead of one open locker room, we're gonna make that into 2. One would be what we would call PE, and one would be a team room comparable to the boys' team room. Because, and I laugh, so right now, our girls will use our boys' team room on game night. Creates more locker room issues. So one of the things that we laughed about So guess where, so just think about this. And it's funny when you really sit down and talk about it because we're so used to things. All of us grew up. Visiting team arrives, where do we send the cheerleaders? The dress.
See,
What do we have on the stage now in 2021 that we didn't have in 1984? Cameras.
Yeah.
Oh, the officials are here. We'll just let them dress in the weight room. And then they can come shower with our team.
Welcome to Noble County.
So now,
Surprise, surprise.
now let me also share something. I'm going back.
Oh, here we go.
Well, I don't need to go back. But when you open the body, you bring about a whole lot of Title IX issues that we didn't think about in 1963. So we're not having the girls, we're going to have on both sides, boys team room, PE, girls team room, PE, separate showers for our
How much is this gonna cost?
oh no, we're in budget, but I had to take the elementary off the list. Well,
it's a shit show.
Well, the biggest, so let me tell you everything at the elementary. All the plumbing's brand new. All the fixtures are brand new. And I'm not saying that we can't start right back in the fall and do that. But I'm trying to stay within our budget, and I don't think that you want me to do both, and both of them be less than what we still have these issues that I just told you about.
Now, the fourth one is for the women reps?
Possibly.
You know what you're talking about?
It could be, or cheerleaders.
Or cheerleaders. Because I know the referees used to be in that cage room, and the boys room used to be a small weight room right there, and there's a shower back there that was covered up.
We're opening some of that stuff back up to get those showers, yeah. And so what that involves is, we're having to cut that, we're having to cut all that out. Build it, oh yeah. So to stay in budget, that was a give and take that we decided we needed to do. Let's get that right. The other thing I will tell you, and this is nobody's fault, it was hard to get a coach over on the other side to really tell me what they need and what they're going to use it for. And that's not necessarily their fault. We just have a lot of different people. So when we started looking at the budget, the magnitude of this project, we elected to push that to, I mean, like I said, it could happen. It can happen very soon again, but it's.
I'd really do it this way, do it right.
So, and you can, we can out there on the 27th, if you want to ballpark and what it is, that vote. But I will tell you, I also have, it's only from one contractor, but I have a list of $855,000 worth of general maintenance needs just at the elementary and middle school. They don't all have to be done right now, but you're talking about metal flashing on the roofs, you're talking about downspouts, you're talking about soffit, you're talking about drainage, you're talking about a lot of stuff.
Is that list risk ranked, or is there any sort of prioritizations with it?
Yeah, it's not something that we need to go out and spend $855 right now, but we do have a priority. Jim and I have been working on that, and we'll be able to accomplish that within our budget, and I'll be able to share with you on the 27th how I see that happening. Because if you think about it, if we complete phase 4 of the farm on budget, that's $3.5 million of our $4 million transfer. We carry that over, and I know the balance changes, we expect. Take that 500 with the next 4, that's 4.5 in PI going into the following year, then we start matching that with other projects, we could be in good shape. But we just felt like if we needed to do this right, because we've got major issues back there, we need to really carve out this space, and that was not part of the original scope. But we do not want cheerleaders to continue to dress in the auditorium. We do not want officials to continue to shower with the team. By the way, can't happen against everything that we agree not to do. And so we just need to get that right.
Is some of that $850,000, is that something that's on the work order list? You think the maintenance guys can punch some of that?
That's what we're looking at, that whole list of what, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Green Acres update, I think we've talked a lot about that. We will have the full team here on the 27th, and be ready for that. Let's,
Oh, can you go to page 4 for a minute? I was looking through my notes. Did we ever look at the bathroom in the elementary school, 3 through 12? Is that on page 4?
it's not right now. It is not, but that's also part of that, where I think that we are, if we come in at 3.5 million.
Is Dean still there?
I don't know, he left here probably 30 minutes ago. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you see a white Suburban outside, he's still here, and if it's not, he's gone.
Are you looking for keys?
Sorry,
No problem, thank you.
You're looking for keys?
So right now, that's not on there. That is actually on Jim's list, but like I said, we're trying to leave that $500,000 cushion there. Calendar change, I talked to you about it. We are canceling school on Friday, March 5th. And staff will make up that day on the evening of April 8th when we have our community open house and curriculum showcase. Students will not have to make up that day. The board retreat, again, and right now we have that scheduled from 8 to 4. You can pull up just a sample draft agenda. So I thought that we would do an opening at 8, but trying to go at 8:15 to 9 with a financial update. And I guess one of the things, let me cover the whole thing, and you tell me if there's things missing, because quite frankly, you'll need to tell me if you want to hear more about something or more time on something else. From 9:15 to 10, I had Philip providing kind of an update on technology, kind of similar to where we're at, where we're going. We had 50 minutes set aside for an elementary school update, 50 minutes set aside for the high school. I put 45 minutes in for lunch. There's a piece missing there. Yeah. So anyway, right after lunch, we go to a phase 4. And we would have about 50 minutes set for phase 4, and then we would finish the day from 2 to 4 with the Green Acres Farm Complex. The first thing I would do is I would have Josh talk about the process, where we are. I would have him review the criteria that he's put together, that he'll be putting out for bidding. And then I would have our ag department in to talk about what phase 1 looks like and what other possible spin-offs from that would be. Is there anything, and I guess let's start with Trenda, is there something specific you'd like to know more about on the financial side? Or what would you expect or like to hear from her on that day?
The reason I was asking for a little bit of direction on that was because I know we talked about wanting possibly maintenance, like purchase service versus otherwise, or put that off to another time and focus on an overall state of the district kind of thing. Just a little bit of direction where everybody wants to go. Keeping in mind, it sounds like we've only got about 45 minutes, and I could probably talk for 8 hours if you wanted me to. But
Short change you method.
I would say overview, but that's just my opinion. It's really.
I agree.
and then maybe do the deep dive into the maintenance like another time.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I realize I've put you off like
Well, no, you're fine.
a few meetings, but
The overview is great.
Okay.
It's always good because the overview leads to rabbit holes.
I think it'll set a nice stage for the rest of the day because you'll kind of have a perspective going into the projects.
Yes.
So, okay.
So going back to what we were talking a little bit about, a few of those items, about the restroom and the other list, you know, what we're really trying to do is close the body on the high school. Take care of those really priority items at the elementary and get through this year. And then I think we have a lot more flexibility moving forward. So is there anything specifically you would like to have more info on from either of our principals? You need more info. If we talk about high school, you want more information about the pathways, so you can see what that looks like, what the course sequence looks like in each of those paths. Is there anything specific you'd like to know more about?
I think we're gonna get that in the course curriculum, don't you, that Jeff's developing?
I think you will, absolutely.
In my evening too. That's nice.
If you have, listen, we have time, so if there's anything you think about to leave, you think, oh, I'd like to hear more about that, if you'd like Chad to focus on something differently, or anything.
Who's going to cover the current teachers and years, and that's something we're going to touch base on like future teachers, or what's our future need with retirement?
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I can, yeah, right now, we really only have one anticipated teaching vacancy due to retirement.
I meant like over the next 5 years.
Yeah, we can put a senior, we can show you a senior.
Yes,
Yep,
that's what.
I'll do that.
That'd be handy too, seeing all the curriculum changes and paths that we're moving and how we can better prepare. Yeah, it's a good suggestion.
How many things would really need about, geez,
You know what?
She's gonna have enough time in the day.
It's really something else. She's reinvented things. And if you think about it, what we heard tonight, we've got multiple people. You got Phillips taught a class. Now we're looking at Lauren teaching a class. We might have Mark Smith teaching a class or two. You know, we've got our counselor, Chris. We'll be offering speech and lit next year. That's one thing that, you know, that every kid needs when they go on to college. It's the first requirement to be able to knock that out. For every kid, it's going to be fantastic. So there's just a lot of people that are stepping in different buckets to try to pull this together. So
if Lauren is teaching, are we gonna hire another nurse? Is that, or?
yeah, well, first of all, let's wait and see what she gets credentialed in. Because here's the thing, it could be as little as 1 period a day. I would recommend that we would wait till we see what she's credentialed in. Because you don't offer every class at the same time. It happens in a sequence where, you know, you might teach 101 and 104, 101 first semester, 104. You may only be teaching, you know, over a 2-year period to get 4 classes in that pathway. That would only be 1 class a semester, 2 a year. So it may not, but what I would recommend is we stick with the nurse's aide if we needed some additional help, which frees her up then but certainly freeing her up for a couple of classes and employing a nurse's aide is far more cost effective than hiring a teacher that you only need for 1 or 2 periods and incurring another benefit like you heard about the curriculum fair. We're just kind of working right now on how we're going to not make that a super spreader event. So we're working on times and seeing how we're going to divide people up. Work retreat 21, 22 calendar. Did you guys have a chance to look at that?
You had what, 2 hours delay from that with Fridays?
Yeah.
Was that still part of the stuff, the planning piece?
I think it was around days that they didn't have meetings.
It was really, we tried to go right off this. We used, yeah.
This year, and that was moved to Fridays.
We just really, we didn't really consider a post-Labor Day start this year. Our kids have been out of school so much, and to think that we're going to be out by, what is it, May 19th this year, to not have them come back till after September just seemed not to make a whole lot of sense. We just felt like we needed to get them back.
Kind of like
And truly, we know, we don't anticipate any construction project that could delay school, but we could get into something here in the front hall, in these classrooms. But we know that the elementary, the bulk of our kids can be back to school on time without concern. And if our high school had to, they could start remote if they needed. So we just felt like that would be, the last thing I'd want to do is have something tore apart at the elementary school and then realize that, oh, we got to delay our kids that have already been out so much. So
that's kind of our thinking. Okay, that's all I have. And I have one item, personnel item in executive session.
Motion adjourned. Motion. Person